Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with a Greg Terry experience thrown into with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce, and
me. Welcome.
Yeah. I wasn't pointing at someone walking through the door, don't worry. And Greg as well. We are in Ukraine at the moment. Greg, where are we? Or can you say yes? I guess, is it safe to say where we are? We are somewhere in the middle of Ukraine.
Okay, let me see here, Johnny. So we're in Kropotnivsky, but hold on a second. Okay, here we go with a technical failure. You refresh your screen. Did that give a new address?
No, not
Oh,
for me.
no. We're good. We're good. Okay, never mind. You know what?
Cooking
You're
on
the
gas,
legend.
mate.
You are cooking with high octane there. Yeah, we're in central Ukraine.
Yep. So we are sort of winding our way back. Like this can't go on forever, and I eventually have to go back to the UK. It's been an incredible experience so far, and there's still more to come. But we're sort of moving away from the front lines now, back to sort of where we started. It's been a fascinating trip so far, and last night was well, quite a bit to say about last night. So we were in Kherson last night, and we actually spent 2 nights in Kherson in the end due to fluid arrangements that meant that we had to stay an extra night. We weren't planning on that second night. And I'll tell you what, it was hot there last night. There were all sorts of bangs going on. We stay very close, really, effectively to the front line in Kherson. You know, it's not far away from the front line at all there. And where we spent the first night there, it was relatively quiet. I remember myself and Pierre were sitting out on the kind of terracey bit to the guest house place we were staying at, and you're looking in the sky. It was dark. It's because it completely goes into shutdown, Kherson. Everything's blacked out, and you could see just over buildings and whatnot, flashes in the near distance, which would be Dnipro River. Right, so it could be Krinky down there. You're not sure. It could be somewhere else over there, Leshki or whatever it is. There are flashes, and then you heard the bangs. So this was fairly close, and that makes you think, oh, next. But it wasn't really in our faces. The next night, last night, my goodness, it was a hot night. There was a lot going on. There were like consecutive explosions happening, like boom. You get a boom. So that's often the outgoing. So a kind of woof. You're thinking, okay, and then there's which gets you on edge, and then there's a kind of crackling bang, which suggests it's an incoming one. And actually, there were times when there were like 3. It seemed 3 incoming, and very close, and the windows were buffeting, and the room was shaking a bit. So that was certainly an interesting experience, Greg.
Yeah, it's there's definitely a difference between the incoming and the outgoing. And as Johnny described, the outgoing is a very solid thud, boom, boom, and it's very low on the frequency level, and it'll shake like the foundation of your building, boom, boom, boom. But then when the incoming comes, that's a completely different sound. You get that. It's more like a whistle sound. It depends on what's coming in, whether it's artillery or a mortar, or of course drones are flying over. You know, last night, this is going to sound terrible to say, but last night was exactly what Jenya and I were hoping for that you would experience, because
I know what you mean now. I know what you mean.
It gives you the understanding of, okay, this is crazy what I'm hearing and I'm feeling. And I think what you then take to the next step, and that is, let me describe Kherson to everybody, because now we're out of Kherson. So Kherson is like this. Kherson typically is a city of 300,000 people. And Kherson is a gateway. It's called the gateway city to Crimea. So you have 2 basic roads that go to Crimea out of mainland Ukraine. The first one comes through right there to the east of Dnipro, coming down. It comes through Zaporizhia, goes down through Melitopol, and comes on down into mainland Crimea. The second one, leave the map right there. You see Kherson it starts with an X there, Xer. There's the English letters, Kherson. And then you cross the river, the Antonivka Bridge, and you come straight down into Crimea. And that's the access. And when people are coming from or going for holiday prior to all of this mess, and they're coming from central Ukraine, and of course, the largest city in Ukraine is, let me turn that light around. The largest city in Ukraine is Kyiv, and they come down through central or western Ukraine. They come through Mykolaiv. They come through Kherson, and it's a massive population. But the population there's 300,000. The city slopes down to the riverbank, and it is really beautiful. It was, but now it is completely destroyed. Now, not to the level of Bakhmut and Avdiivka and these other places, but it's done.
It's an odd place, Greg. Like from my point of view, having just experienced it for the first time last couple of days, it is a place where you get a sense where that as you say, this would be a wonderful place to visit in times of peace. But at the same time, I tell you what, chipboard merchants are going to be doing a brisk business at the moment because every other window is boarded up. When you go into Kherson at night, because it's safer, not so much about the safety of ourselves, but safety of the person, the guest house where we go. We don't want people to know where that is. So you go in, everywhere's blacked out. I remember driving past, we drove to a supermarket, and you're like, we're going to the supermarket here. It's like, what? Everything's black. You can't see anything. And oh, by the way, that's a petrol station, a gas station that's open. Like, there's an open petrol station. I can't even see it. And there's a little green light maybe on one of the pumps or something. And that's all you can make out. So the whole place is shut down at night for safety. Everyone's curtains are completely closed. It's like the Blitz, London in the Blitz. And it's a real sort of ghost town. You're driving around with no headlights at the end. And in fact, you don't even switch your mobile phone on in the car. It's that type. Zhenya blacked out the interactive screen at the front of the vehicle, and then you were walking alongside to make sure we knew where we were going because it's completely pitch black. And we got to where we were at, and that's that ghost town. But then the next day, when you're driving through in the daytime, it's a different kind of ghost town. It's a place where there are remnants of what it used to be, like the wisps of reality of a former self. As you would see in a ghost, and there are boarded up windows, and there are shops that are almost entirely closed. People are walking around, but they're mainly going to, their little market stalls that are the main way of selling goods in a place. So they're still mainly operational, but most other services are closed, and windows are broken. There are occasional buildings are not in a good shape. Not completely rubberized, but this is a place that you can imagine a year down the line would be rubberized.
Yeah, we were talking with some guys, and we were talking with guys who were in the know, and that was the plan. Kherson was occupied, and then it was liberated. And you remember early in the war hearing the famous place Chornobyevka, where there was always this destruction going on, Ukrainians destroying Russian equipment in Chornobyevka. And we were able to take Johnny to Chornobyevka, the famous place, and all of these things. He's seen it all. But it's really fair to say that Kherson is a ghost town, that Kherson is very apocalyptic in the feel. Zhenya and I today. So, guys, I've been working 30 years. 30 years ago was my first trip to Moscow. And I know I do not look that old. I'm 37. I went when I was 7 years old by myself, and but I'm not 37. But I went when I was 21 years old, by myself, and I was teaching there. I spent a month in Moscow, and that really started my journey. 98, I started coming to Ukraine. And today, when we were coming out of Kherson, we had to stop and get some supplies. And you guys will be seeing video about this later. I'll give you a keyword, Kirill. You'll see Kirill, not tonight, later. We always post later. But Zhenya and I had to get out, and the terrain's uneven, and it was still a little wet. So we said, Johnny, just hang here. And Pierre hung with Johnny, and because we had to fly through this market and go a few blocks, actually, Johnny. And we were just running through this market, and Zhenya and I just looked at each other. And this is what we said. This war has put Kherson back in time 30 to 40 years. It's straight back to the Soviet Union. It was not only just how the market was operating, everything we were seeing, the interaction, the guy standing on the corner, which if Johnny was to walk by him, he would have no idea. But I know, and Zhenya knows, he's on the corner, black marketing money. He's there changing money. And everything has gone right back 40 years ago, 30 years ago. And it's just tragic. And, Zhenya and I were talking about it. And Zhenya's in here, and I see him saying hello. But it's just strange.
One of those places where there are probably, well, not probably, there are a number of collaborators around, so you're never quite sure, who people are, and, what side of the fence they're sitting on. But also, we did find a little cafe. It was a lovely little place that made the most amazing tea, which is obviously
spot of tea.
Yeah, can't go without it. And as we were walking in there, Zhenya got talking to this chap because there was this weird sign up, and Zhenya was trying to work out what was going on. And this guy sort of explained and took Zhenya around a corner, and we were sort of following along and sort of explaining that things are terrible and there hasn't been aid in 2 weeks there. And you were looking at this guy thinking, is he drinking? He might be someone that's drinking. He doesn't have a job now, and I was talking to Zhenya and Pierre about the fact that economies are so important, right, for communities, because if people have jobs, they have money, they spend their money, and they spend their money at places that employ people, and so they have money, and then they spend money, and so everyone understands how economics works, right? But actually, that's super important. So if you have a place like Kherson, which had a bustling, vibrant economy going on, and then you do to it what's been done to it, then people leave, people die, people leave, and it goes into sort of depression, and then no one has a job, which means that no one's spending money freely in the local economy, which means that the jobs go, and it's this vicious cycle that eventually the whole place depends on aid. And you've got this city where, a few people are working, but most of the jobs are going to probably be local council jobs or government jobs, like rebuilding infrastructure or trying to keep things going, or driving the buses. The buses are always running there, and so on and so forth. But really, places like that are just going to die a slow death, economically speaking, more than as much as I guess the bombing that destroys the physical infrastructure.
Well, and the other thing you have to remember is the Kherson is so dangerous. There's only X amount of hours that they allow people to be in the streets. It's extremely dangerous. People are killed. I really want to say every day, but it is basically daily in Kherson. Civilians lose their lives. Johnny was talking about the collaborators. So as Zhenya and I have taken Johnny around all the front lines, and Pierre, those guys have been amazing. Johnny with his MS, the dude has been unbelievable. Not one complaint. Those of you that saw my video I put up last night, you saw the soldier kneeling down and helping Johnny on with his brace and his shoes. It was just, he has been a
Don't make me cry again. That's emotional.
It's very, but it's real. And I just can't compliment them enough. But there is different protocols that we follow in different places. And we have to reap later what we do now. So when in reference to Kherson, Zhenya and I would say, guys, do not pull your camera out. Do not show your camera. You do not understand, but we'll teach you. There are collaborators here. And if they see a camera, right now, journalists are forbidden in Kherson. And basically, foreigners are forbidden in Kherson. Period. 2 French were just killed there a few days ago. It's next to impossible to get into Kherson.
And so, what interesting, just to interject, what happens is when humanitarian workers or reporters or foreign people die in these places, people like myself, right? So if I'd lost my life in Kherson, then they react really badly obviously, and they shut things down and they make the checkpoints, the block points much tighter, and don't let people in. And so, when we're driving to block points, you guys say, look, Pierre and myself in the back, don't say anything. I was wondering why we shouldn't say anything, like, well, what but the idea is that we don't want to announce that we're foreign. Basically, they want to assume that in the back that we are Ukrainian, and so they don't check our papers, and it doesn't become onerous, especially in light of these deaths that have happened. And so, yeah, it's important to be overcautious.
It is, and there's a few reasons, and I think people are enjoying hearing how this works. So, Kherson is a closed city, and you really can't get in unless you're military or you actually have papers that you still reside in that city. That's it. There's no, you didn't see any humanitarian aid trucks running around. You don't see any journalists running around. You don't see anything. And it's too dangerous. So you may be sitting there tonight, wherever you're watching in the world, going, okay, well, how did you guys get in? Okay, so let me explain that to you. Xenia and I have been running aid to the front lines since the war began. I soon will be I'm in my 8th month of running aid and soon to be my 9th month. I mean, and I live in the US. 9 months will be running aid on the front lines. So everywhere we go, we're registered. Our truck is registered. Our license plate is registered. My passport is registered all throughout Ukraine. Zhenya's, of course, and all of his documents. So when they go up and they see ours and Zhenya's speaking to them in in the right language, and that's about all I can say about that. We communicate what's going on. It's over, and we tell Pierre and Johnny, you don't even need your passport, most likely. Just don't talk. And they just sit back there. And so it was really, Johnny, we really need to be appreciative of Xenia, because
God, the man's a legend.
Brother, you wouldn't even be getting into Kherson. You know what I'm saying? And the access that you've been given and wonderfully and happily shared was a lot of effort on Xenia's part from the beginning, and my parts, building all these relationships. But why then was there a press blackout in Kherson? Yes, there is. There's no press allowed in Kherson right now. It's closed. So Ukrainian press can go in there, but no foreign press can go in Kherson. I saw that question there. Why are we such stickers, like on cameras and all that in certain places? Xenia will say, okay, guys, you can take pictures here. You can take a picture of that, this. Why? Because then you go to the collaborator phase. And this is also why we only enter Kherson in the dark. And tonight we were talking about it. And it was actually Pierre who said, when we were coming into this city, he goes, you guys talked about going into Kherson in the dark, but I think every city we've went in the dark. Yes, Pierre. Every city we've went in, we go in the dark. Why? Because we want Johnny and Pierre to be able to see and take pictures and do all of this. But if there are collaborators, especially in Kherson, and they see our truck and they see Pierre or myself or Xenia or Johnny hanging out the window with a camera, all they're going to do is write down our license plate. They're going to write down the description of our truck, and they're going to share our information. And the next thing you know, when we're coming through, we have a drone on our truck. That's the way it works. So I am super appreciative that Johnny and Pierre were so respectful to the process. And when we're respectful to it, it allows us to get maximum access. So it's a war zone.
Yeah, and it's such a fascinating. I really wish I had recorded lots of footage of just driving around. Twice we drove basically out of Kherson, but today we did a bit of driving around. Just some of the footage would have been. I mean, we do have pictures out the window and stuff in surreptitious ways of some of the places in Kherson where it's like, you're getting pictures of like boarded up windows and things. It would be really interesting for people to see what it's like. And what's really fascinating is coming to a place like the city that we're in now, which seems to be quite a well-off city to a degree. Like, architecture is lovely. It's all just like going to any European kind of city today, coming into the city tonight. And it's just lovely. And we went to some lovely supermarkets to grab some nosh to eat, and you wouldn't know you're at war. And yet this morning, you're at war.
Hmm.
Physically you can hear it. You can hear the bombs exploding, or the artillery exploding, and you can see it in every vista you look at in Kherson. This is a place ravaged by war. What Pierre made a really interesting point, where it's like, I don't think I've seen a single child in Kherson. And actually, it's like, yeah, we've now driven around 2 days and I haven't seen a single child in Kherson. There are still lots of people there. It's not like it's a ghost town, as in everyone's left. There are still people there.
How
Just
many people did you see?
obviously not as many as you would normally see by a huge margin, but it's not like it's completely empty. So there is a city still kind of resiliently hanging on, but you wonder how many people have jobs. You wonder how many people are there because they have no other options, so on and so forth. And it's interesting driving out past like car dealerships that are just, they're there. There's no one there, and there's no cars there, and you're
And many
like,
of them have been destroyed or have damage.
yeah,
So I can tell you, when Xenia and I ran into that market to get those things, and we covered quite a bit of territory there, and that's it. That's it for the whole city. I remember seeing 3 kids. That's it. All
right.
I've seen in the last 2 days in Kherson was 3 kids. I see Rick, the Ukrainian, in here, and he's a major part of our team. So I want to say thank you to Rick. Dude, you're amazing. Thank you. We plan to see you tomorrow at some point. Additionally, I think there's, Johnny, this is you drive the boat here, and I'll add some gas here, but I see lots of questions about Avdiivka, and
I was gonna come on to that. That's basically
okay.
The next conversation, I guess, and it's very topical. But
let's do this, Johnny, if you don't mind. We'll talk about Avdiivka in just a second. Why don't you finish out? Because we were able to do an amazing thing for some of your viewers, and now they also view and support my work as well. Our work, let's say it that way. We were able to visit Mark and Elena's parents.
Yeah. So Mark and Elena are viewers of my channel that have been long supporting. They're really avid viewers and been a fantastic addition to the team here, or core part of the team. I've interviewed them on the channel because they live in Canada at the moment. It's part of the diaspora, a Ukrainian community there, and I think it's just been wonderful to have them on board. And they were talking about how their parents live in a place in the Kherson Oblast. Or is it in Mykolaiv Oblast?
It's in Zhenyo, tell me. It's
we've said it before anyway. Yeah,
it's no problem. It's Snigorivka, but it's I think it's Mykolaiv Oblast.
Yeah,
right on the edge with Kherson Oblast. It's right on the line. line.
So Mark was like, I don't know how it came about. It's like, oh, we could visit them. We are going to be in the area. So we have eventually got around to visiting them yesterday, after visiting this chap who, and I talked about this in my video last night, but we visited someone who has just got back from fighting in Marinka, a little bit back from the front line because he's injured now. But he used to be frontline. He's up at Severodonetsk, I think, previously, in a number of places. He's back. First day back, he called up Jenny and said, "Please come and see me because I want to see you." And he was like, "And we've cooked borscht, and you're going to drink some cognac, and this is what's going to happen whether you like it or not." And then Jenny was like, "Oh, we're on a time frame. We've got to get to Mark and Elena, Elena's parents." So in the end, we did both, and we had 2 lots of borscht and 2 spreads, and it was absolutely amazing.
It was wonderful.
And we went, and the guy, I was insanely privileged to be given this. And I'm not a warmonger person. I know people accuse me sometimes of being so. I'm someone interested in moral justice, and in Ukraine defending themselves against an aggressive invader. And I justify any kind of action to defend yourself in that way is kind of justified. So that's where I'm at with, I'm not a kind of advocating guns in your home. Me, I'm like a liberal wishy-washy.
Johnny, you liberal machine, you listen to me. Okay, we've spent a week, well, no more than that now together. So now we're brothers. And guys, there are conversions taking place in the life of Johnny. First of all, he can say whatever he wants to, but he's the man that has the knife in his hand. And he was the man that had the gun in his hand. Now, that knife there was a special gift that this soldier gave to Johnny for the sole purpose to say thank you for coming here and having a meal with me and caring about Ukraine and taking the time out to tell the truth and doing what you do on your channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And there was no way he would let Johnny leave without giving a gift. And then he ran and got his coat for me and says, "You're getting my coat." And it's just
It was
this.
insane.
It's insane. Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
a knife he'd had on him for 20 years that he said, this has protected my life and it's protected the life of my unit. And in other words,
Mhm.
that's not a knife to cut your onions for dinner. That is a knife that has done things. And for him, you know, as a metal worker himself, to give me a knife that is part of who he is,
Mhm.
to give me that is I definitely feel like I haven't earned that and I need to earn it now. But it was quite incredible. So so that was a precursor. So then we were like necking back cognacs there as part of the kind of tradition, and then the man was on his knees like putting on my shoes because he knew I had MS and I was struggling, and it was just incredibly humbling. And then we leave there, and then we drive into Sinarivka and
Mhm.
go to meet Olena's parents. And actually, I do have some of the video
Not
from
that
your.
one.
No, that's not what. Oh, it's gone. No, it is. It's this one, but on the other. Sorry,
There you go.
that's where it
There you
is.
go.
Yep.
Mhm.
So.
I don't think there's no audio, but
It's
it's okay. We're in a that's all right.
Drat,
Johnny's there. You're in their
Drat
home.
Blast. Yeah, so
Mhm.
we're in the home anyway. You can watch that on Greg's channel, and I might try
Yeah,
and
it's
mirror
there.
that on mine.
Yeah, mirror it.
But we're in Olena's parents' house, and in the video I say mother and brother, because the only reason I said brother is because when we were going into the house, someone said, "Oh, something, he's a brother," and I was like, "Oh, that's not the dad," and then it ends up being the father. But just imagine I've stumbled over the word father and said brother instead. But anyway, her parents there, and it was just this wonderful spread that was put on. I'll try and bring it up, but yeah, it was an absolute privilege to be a part of this spread where we were just absolutely, the hospitality of her parents was incredibly moving. And the sorts of things that we picked up from that experience as well, like just little anecdotes about their experiences living in a town or a village that was occupied by the Russians, and then experiencing firsthand war crime. And do you know what? I've now spoken to two Russians, or like two sets of two sets of Ukrainians. God, that's a bad slip, isn't it? I've
Shoti
spoken to
dealish, shoti dealish, shoti dealish.
spoken to two sets of Ukrainians who have told me firsthand of their experiences of a Russian war crime. And I'm thinking again, I'm getting the sense of who are the good guys, who are the bad guys. I know it's simplistic, but it's this moral calculation that to me is ever more clear, is ever clearer. And when you are talking to people as Olena's parents were explaining, when you talk to people that can talk you through an experience of Russians committing a very obvious war crime, you just can't help but thinking we need to help these guys
Mhm.
more than ever. We are so justified in all the assistance we give to Ukraine. I know it's anecdotal, but when you then go back to look at these stats, like 160,000 war crimes being registered or whatever it is now, you're thinking, well, I've just in 2 days, literally in 2 days, I've spoken to two sets of people that have detailed two completely different war crimes that are absolutely horrific.
And we're talking about like I hate to say it this way, but something you'd see from World War II, or I mean, not just war crimes, but the way they were um, carried out was just evil.
Yeah, so I know
Evil.
I said this last night on my video, but I will repeat it. So what Elena's parents said is that basically when it was occupied, they didn't have fresh water at some point, and so the Russian authorities said, "Come and gather here, and we'll give you out some fresh water." And so they pulled in all the villages to get fresh water from some I don't know what it was, whether it's some kind of lorry or truck or something, getting fresh water, and then they get hit with mortar fire. And a bunch of villagers get killed. And then straight away, the Russians are there with video cameras filming it all as if, like, where those video cameras suddenly come from? They film this all. And then the next day, they're like, and the Ukrainians have mortar attacked these people.
Mm-hmm.
And all these villagers are like, no, they haven't. You know, this was Russians that did that. They called us here. They've hit us with the mortar. We know it's that. The Ukrainians are not close enough to, you know, all this reasoning is how that couldn't have been the Ukrainians. And then what makes matters worse is not only did they, and it's interesting that Olen's parents are like, we were the first to like spread the information about this event. This was a really big thing for them, and they disclosed this out there. But then what happened is the Russians wouldn't let the villagers bury their relatives, friends, whoever, the fellow villagers, unless they paid 10,000 hryvnias, which is, I think, I don't know, something like $270 or something like that. I can't remember, maybe more. When you think that the monthly, I guess monthly,
yeah, about
pension,
270.
yeah, monthly pension is something like $50 or so. You know, you're thinking just to bury your loved one that the Russians have just killed, and then they're charging you like 10,000 hryvnia to bury them. And so what happened is all these villagers ended up burying their loved ones wrapping them in carpets and burying them in the backyard, waiting for the liberation of the town before they could go and bury them properly. And you're thinking, God, that's insult to injury. That's absolutely horrific.
And then today, of course, talking to a dear friend, and you guys will hear more about that in the future. It's a partner of ours. He actually is a volunteer in our organization. He's 62 years old, former Soviet submariner and naval diver during the Soviet Union, and he runs aid like crazy to the front lines with us. He's a legend, and Johnny was able to meet and interview him today and talk with him and chat with him. And he was simply telling the stories that, yeah, during the occupation here, we witnessed it completely, that basically the invaders would charge Ukrainians to leave, and they would basically say, okay, if you want to leave and get out of the occupied area and go to the unoccupied area, you can pay a fee and we'll let you go. They would pay the fee, let them go, and as soon as they would go, they would kill them. So, I mean, firsthand stories.
There was this corridor of people, and then they'd be hitting them with a machine gun. But he was also saying part of the reason it appeared for allowing these people having this corridor to escape after already paying the Russians, right, was to clear the mines as well. So they're like, go and run over these fields.
Correct.
That's your way to escape. Oh, look, you've run over a load of mines. Well, that's cleared the field for us. And meanwhile, we're going to scare you into running even faster by shooting at you with machine guns. It's just like,
Johnny,
horrific.
speaking of mines, and I want to save the Kirill story for later, but how many mines did you see today?
Quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, goodness. So really interesting. I've got some photos of this where you'll be driving, or this is on the way to Kirill's house in Myrna, which is rather ironically called Peaceful.
Yeah, Peaceful Village.
So that is a place that's half destroyed, and driving there, you drive past these fully plowed fields, either on one side or maybe here, and then you go from plowed field to kind of scrubland, and in the scrubland there'll be these sort of sticks sticking up all over the place with little white tags flowing in the wind. And it's like, oh, what's going on there? And for each of those white tags is a mine or a suspected mine. You're like, wow. I mean, there's a lot of them, and they're all over the shop. And some of them are really quite close to the road as well. So you just realize how incredibly dangerous the place still is. And yet, they have demined certain areas and are using them for farming. But then, obviously, the land that's not perfect for farming, they left that, and it's just mining, demining areas that are going to be useful for agriculture.
And Johnny did have to go to the loo, and
So,
I
yeah,
said,
it's
Johnny,
just,
don't leave the road.
yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you're thinking, yeah, no, I'll probably take that advice fairly well, thanks. Yeah, just so that was an incredible experience. Your man Oleg, who was, as you say, this Soviet submariner, and he had an interesting story to tell because he's a Ukrainian who had been effectively serving, well, not effectively, he was serving in the Soviet armed forces as a submariner, as a diver, actually, telling stories about going out to Cuba in submarines, and that they'd hide the submarines going out to Cuba by having them go directly underneath like a cargo vessel, so you wouldn't be able to tell that there was a submarine there because the whole thing would come up as one unit on sonar, radar, whatever. And so he's telling us all these stories, and yet here we are now, however many decades later from his service in the Soviet armed forces, and he is volunteering to support, with his family, interestingly, the Ukrainian effort to defend their own homeland from Russian invasion. It's an incredible sort of switch around, and there'll be so many people like that in Ukraine who have experienced being a part of the Soviet Union, have experienced being kind of a fellow countryman of the people who are now presently invading them. It's just a bizarre situation.
Rick, the Ukrainian, just gave a really good comment, and I saw this comment just jumped out at me here as well. David Wells, hello from Twin Falls, Idaho Oblast. That's the first time I've seen David's name there, so welcome, David. But Rick said, thank you guys for showing us the front. Yeah, so inspiring. And Rick, you're inspiring as well. We're just all put together as a team, so thank you.
Yeah, because so much of this, I mean, and just by the way, I was really stoked as well because Oleg gave me his patch, and it's just a beautiful thing when you see it, when you see a man reach over and I think I know where this is going. And these are all on like Velcro, and I've talked to you like previously how these are like currency, but you're just like, oh, he's doing that for me though. And that is a moment of genuine kindness as he like rips it off. And he's like, this is for you. You got to have this. And I'm like, oh man, this means the world to me. Incredible. And actually, I'll just say another moment of super. So we were somewhere today.
Yeah, don't say this one. Whatever you do. Okay.
Actually, I can't say this one because I have no idea what the name of the place is. So we were in, I don't know, Smithtown. And we were speaking with people who were involved. I don't know if I can say but I presume I can, what they're involved with.
So there is a famous place across the river on the opposite bank. That is the only place where the Ukrainians have established a bridgehead, and they're very famous guys.
And they assist with that in some way. And so we went and spoke to a bunch of these guys, and they were absolutely fabulous. One particular guy who was he an actual doctor?
Yes, he's not a he's the doc. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's absolutely brilliant guy. Really good English, just a wonderful person. And you're meeting these guys, and they're giving you their kind of rundown of their opinions and whatnot. And Greg, who knows these guys.
Okay, let me just stop. These guys are the cream of the crop. These are the guys that Johnny talks about all the time when he's doing his map updates. And I'm just so happy that we were able to surprise him today. We walked into this place and we walked into their building. And I mean, when we're in their building, we're in their building. Okay, we're their bases. And I said, Johnny, do you know who you're talking to? No, I said, it's those guys. So very, very, very special unit. So I'm glad we were able to make that happen for you. And maybe a little later, we'll tell exactly who.
And an interesting unit as well, because they could be combined. They don't quite know even who they are in a sense, but that's probably a bit too.
Are you going to show your
involved?
Gift?
So yeah. So basically, I was going to say, so Greg, because he knows these guys really well, right? Was presented with a gift that had been handmade by one of the guys who made this insignia. If you look, see the bottom of that, you can see it looks, the texture slightly different. That's because that is amber, which is very famously an important substance from Ukraine. So there's a lot of amber, I think, in maybe Carpathian mountain regions and places like that in the West. But anyway, he's made that whole beautiful thing by hand for Greg, and it was just brilliant. And then we were traveling away. We said our goodbyes, and then we were having a coffee nearby with Oleg, and I was speaking to him. And the reason why there was all this delay and I was doing this impromptu interview with him is that they were rushing me, one of these bad boys, as well. And it was just like, oh my goodness, which has been, signed on the back. I need to get Zhenya to transcribe that for me. And I'm thinking, wow, these guys are so insanely generous when I'm just some random dude, just cadging a lift in the back of the battle bus with Greg and Zhenya. It's just, and Pierre, of course, who's been superb in being such a great member of the cast. So yeah, just again, more examples of generosity. And I think that speaks to how, not desperate, but how, I guess, appreciative, but maybe also desperate they are for people to be invested in this conflict. That thanks comes from a place of, we really bloody need everyone. We need all of you to help. And because you are here caring, damn it, that means a lot to us. And this is our way.
Especially with that unit and where you were, nobody can get there. Nobody.
Yeah.
And if you get there, they know that you're legit and you're there to really help them and to not take advantage of them. So they're wide open. They're so happy. And you saw that joy.
Yeah. Great bunch of guys, and yeah, just another really important experience. But actually, before we move on to the next subject matter, which is a super important subject matter, a few thanks. If I can take this time. So Mark Biscuit, who is just, the Mark and Elena, this is Mark in Canada. Thank you for making my wife and her family very happy. Apparently you're welcome to visit anytime. Personally, I find it mystifying that they would allow such a motley crew back into their home, but it seems that you all left quite an impression. It was wonderful. It really was wonderful. And what was lovely at the end is Nikolaevich, who is the father, Olena's father, said, and he just walked up. And again, it's this idea of giving a gift, isn't it? And he walks up and says, look, here's my bookshelf. Help yourself to a book. Of course, these are all in Russian, no doubt. And I was like, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I was like, can you help me out, please? To Zhenya. So he's like translating, looking at it's like, oh, which one? And then there's this one. I don't know where it is at the moment. It's going to be in one of my bags somewhere. I think it might be over there. It's a book on philosophy. I was like, this is a book for you. I was like, yes. So I got this book of philosophy from Nikolaevich. So that was really, so Tanya and Nikolaevich, thank you so much for your hospitality, formally from myself, and I assume from Greg as well.
Yeah, and I want to say, I know you're doing all these right now, and I just want to say thank you to my mods. It looks like I'm starting to attract a good number of Russian bots. So I thank you to my mods, because I can't watch it anymore. And I try to watch the chat, and especially mobile like this, I don't have it set up over here to my left.
Yeah.
So thank you to all the mods for helping us out. And, if you want to come in here and troll me, why don't you write in a language that if you want to troll Russia, write in Russian or speak to me in Russian. Let's go.
Yeah.
Don't troll your English. Let's go.
Thank you for Peter van der Reet. It's really kind of you. Always a great supporter of the channel. Wee Bit Furry. Great stuff, guys. You're amazing. Stay safe. Well, I don't think we are. Well, I think Greg is actually.
No, you are.
I am just tagging along for the ride. That sounds a bit frivolous. I'm not really. It's a lot more serious than that. Here's to a quieter night for the guys. And do you know what, Simon? First of all, thank you. But tonight will be considerably quieter. Well, fingers crossed. Actually, this place has been hit. You were telling me it has been hit previously.
Yeah, a lot of central infrastructure in this city for Ukraine. It's hit quite often.
Yeah. And a few membership gifts from Lawrence22, always kind like that, Lawrence, and Richard Demi. So thank you, Richard. Really appreciate that. Just a few more before we move on. Thank you for Tanya Rindenko, from one Tanya to another, and this is a Canadian-based Tanya as well. So what was great is that Elena's parents would love to go out to Canada, and I don't think Mark has visited them in Ukraine. So one day, hopefully, this war will come to an end and there'll be some reconciliations. Peter van der Roet again, like, man, what a legend. And we'll just get on to just a couple more. Sorry about this. You guys are being way too generous, by the way. Strange tip, incredibly. Strange trip, incredibly. It is a strange trip, but very meaningful and rewarding. And finally, Javier Alvarez, thanks for showing us the reality in Ukraine and the difference that it makes, our support, or the difference our support makes. Special thanks to Greg, Yevgeny. So Zhenya, by the way, as I learned, here's a weird anecdote. So my videos, I'm talking about Zhenya at this and Greg and Pierre. My mum on WhatsApp, it's like, oh, I'm so glad that Greg and Pierre and Eugene are looking after you. I'm like, Eugene? What are you calling? Anyway, it turns out, and my mum just completely lucked out on this. So Zhenya is short for Yevgeny, and Yevgeny is the Ukrainian or Russian iteration of Eugene. So my mum had misheard Zhenya and just gone, yeah, and thanks for Eugene for looking after you. I was like, oh, that's very culturally.
Your mother's just brilliant. Let's face it.
Yes, nailed it. So anyway, thanks to Pierre as well, legend. Okay, so let's move on to talking about what is a big problem for the Ukrainians, and that is Avdiivka. What do you want to say about it to start with?
Well, I mean, here's what we can confirm. And why don't we do this, Johnny? Why don't you actually, without giving our stuff away, but maybe what you experience, like how we get updates. Like Zhenya's riding down the road and we're getting the information way before it ever hits any news platform, ever before it hits, telegrams or WhatsApp. I mean, literally right from there. And people get so mad at me sometimes, especially when I'm back home and I'm doing map analysis or something, and they look at me and go, you know what, you're an idiot because you don't know what you're talking about and you're killing people. Remember that one in Zaporizhia? You don't know what you're talking about, and you there's no way you can know that. It's not on Twitter yet. It's not on Telegram yet. No, but it's in my buddy's eyeball, and I've got permission to share this, and he's there. So whether you want to wait for your Twitter world to come around, which half of that is Russian propaganda anyway, if not more, or do you want to know the truth? And so you got to witness how Zhenya's constantly talking to these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Zhenya is a machine. He's an absolute legend. Honestly, the guy, just is quite brilliant. Driving along the road today and fixing a window like that. Just when the window broke on the vehicle, gets out, comes around, screwdriver, takes the door apart, fixes the window, gets back in, carries on driving. You're like, how did that happen? I would have been like YouTube. How do I fix a window that doesn't work now? That suddenly doesn't work in the middle of a road in the middle of nowhere. Please help me, YouTube. And Jenny's like, screwdriver, job done. And that's a kind of ingenuity but he's like that, and he's got a handle on everything. He's the logistical brains behind everything. I think that we do generally. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Greg, but that's
no, it's absolutely his.
And he has like 2 phones while he's driving, and he's a very good driver. And obviously, I don't advocate having mobile phones that you interact with while you're driving, unless you're Zhenya and he's got the skills. And he's like, ping, 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 things are happening, blah, blah, blah. And he's getting information from all over the place. And many contacts that he's picked up. And actually, what's quite interesting about this experience is understanding how networking works in situations like this. And it can often work in the most kind of, I guess, you won't realize it's networking until it comes. So you just meet someone in a cafe or whatever, and then you get talking, and then you explain what you do. Not me, but both Greg and Zhenya, or as I've explained before in Kramatorsk, or Izhim actually, where they paid for a meal for these two soldiers, say, as a way of saying thank you for your service. And then they got talking afterwards, and Greg's like, "What do you guys need?" And he's like, "Actually, we don't need anything, but thanks. I'd rather you give it to a unit that really does need something." And Greg's like, "Well, if you ever do need anything, if you're that unit on the front line, give me a call." And then, then there are often phone numbers that are swapped, or these little chance meetings, or it could be a blog post where it's maybe the third time that the guys have been at this blog post, and you meet someone and you start forming these relationships. And this is happening every time these guys are going on these loops around the front line. They're just building up a repertoire of people they know and units that they start doing aid with. And then as they build up that trust and those relationships over longer periods of time, that also there is a bit of give from those people, but it's like, well, we'll give you aid, and then they give you, not that Zhenya is asking or Greg is asking for this information. They are just willingly saying, "Oh, by the way, this has happened and you thought you'd need to know," and stuff like that. And so the phone is often pinging. And there's like, "Oh, yeah, it's bad in Avdiivka. Oh, yeah, here's my message through the evening of like carb bomb, these glide bomb. And every time they're going off, Zhenya's phone is pinging. And so you get this sense of what's going on in very many areas of the front line. And that's bona fide, frontline primary source evidence. And
well, here,
with the Avdiivka, Greg can now explain
how. Well, Avdiivka, so you guys are in the chat. It's public out there now. So yes, the supply road has been cut, and it is under the control as of right now of the Russian armed forces. It is a significant problem. Additionally, there are, guys, you can see it right there. It's just Avdiivka is basically cut into two now, and
this is yesterday's map as well. So this would be worse.
There's more. It's much worse now. So what you will not, see on the news or read on some post or something is the amount of bombs that are being dropped on Avdiivka. It is a massive amount of these 500-kilogram bombs that are just relentless. So Ukraine's in a very difficult position there. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that there are definitely going to be some soldiers in some very difficult positions this very second, that are they're not trapped. Okay, they're not surrounded. They're not trapped. They have corridors, but it's extremely gloomy situation in Avdiivka. So yes, supply road cut, and we have a problem.
Yeah, and there are losses. There are some serious Ukrainian losses that are
significant.
Yeah, and it is not good news. Now, I suppose the silver lining to that is that up to this point, the Russians have lost phenomenal amounts in Avdiivka. It has been, I can't imagine it would have been worth their while doing what they're doing. However, right now, that has seemed to have flipped around a bit. I don't know what the Russian losses are, if they're still making considerable losses, because the Ukrainians don't have any artillery ammunition. That means that defending what the oncoming Russian forces is really hard. You can't do that with drones. Drones can hit moving vehicles if it's all timed right, but if you're talking about some mass maneuvers, drones aren't going to cut the mustard. And so you are going to we're having a situation where the Ukrainians are being pushed back. They're losing a lot of troops, and these troops are good troops as well. And there are reinforcements coming in, but apparently Syrskyi is saying, you're not retreating. And so the idea now is that, well, are they going to try and counterattack to take back Avdiivka? That surely can't be it. But then, if it's no retreat, then this isn't just reinforcing to allow the withdrawal of the troops. So there could be some really controversial elements to the defense of Avdiivka.
So I'm just going to give one statement here. First of all, I see a comment in here. Neil Saturday, Third Assault Brigade, love goes out to you, bros. Yes, Third Assault Brigade are heroes, and Third Assault Brigade. I have lots of friends in the Third Assault Brigade. In fact, that's the unit that we have adopted as Third Assault Brigade, Second Rifle Battalion. This is all public information. No problem, but it's a real problem. And for me, Johnny, it may be, we haven't discussed this in all of our writing around, but it's just interesting for me, logically speaking, that we see over the last 7 to 10 days the following things. A Ukrainian reboot of their military leadership, and that is not going as smoothly as everybody thinks, due to, there's a lot of loyalty and love for Zelensky. So we've got that playing. Secondly, when that happens, you have a complete ideological change, you have a strategy change, you have all of this, and it's you can't turn a big ship around in 1 minute. So you have that problem. Secondly, you have the disaster. Okay, guys, I am a doctor, Professor Darren Gertis, Ronald Reagan Republican. I know I'm the opposite from Johnny, but we still love each other, and I still get to kiss his forehead. Okay, that's just the way it is. We're free human beings to have our opinion, but we work together on life and humanity and morality. But I can't say this on the air. I am very disappointed in what my government is doing. I'm disappointed in my country. I'm disappointed in the MAGA movement. I'm disappointed in what is the toilet bowl right now my nation is struggling and spinning around in, and seemingly soon to be flushed, because they do not understand what's going on here. So it's interesting to me. Military change in Ukraine. MAGA and Donald Trump, the Ukrainian aid being passed. Yeah, okay, Senate did it. House, it's dead in the House, guys, unless something crazy happens. It's quote. But we'll see. We'll see. Tucker Carlson with Putin. Okay. And now we have Russia literally putting the hammer down on Avdiivka. They don't care how many soldiers they lose. They don't care how many bombs they drop. They're going to take Avdiivka. And remember, the election, the fake election of Putler is soon coming. So I just see a little magic storm here, and it's a problem in Avdiivka. Just my
opinion. It's just interesting when Tommy Tuberville on TV. I was just watching a video earlier of a compilation of the people in the Senate who were trying to filibuster and were spouting absolute nonsense. But also Tommy Tuberville on TV, who's an American senator, a Republican senator, who was basically referring back to Tucker Carlson's interview and regurgitating Putin's lines. It's like literally an American Reagan would be turning in his grave. An American politician trying to convince the public to do an action to benefit Putin by regurgitating Putin's talking points is despicable.
And additional to that, I see in the comments, I'm add on top of that this NATO conversation and this NATO talk from Donald Trump and his, I don't want to misquote it, but his approval, basically, of the way Vladimir Putin wages war. And for those that don't pay up, okay, well, just go and do what you want. And I'm summarizing that with those nations. You put that on top of it, and then you take the ultimate disrespect. And I don't know the guy, so it's not personal, but what is it? JD Vance? Yeah. Okay, out of Ohio. Oh. Okay. Listen, I don't care if you are anti-Ukraine. That's your prerogative. But for you to be so disrespectful, where people are being slaughtered every day, and on your moment in time, your filibuster time, your speaking time, you begin to read Dr. Seuss. Okay, I'm sorry, but that is the most insult. It's an insult. And
I just want those people to be here experiencing. I'd love to take him.
I would love to. I would take him. I would take him somewhere.
Yeah. So going back to Avdiivka, what we've been told by people that are to be believed, is that the Russians are using fresh troops, as in they're putting in their own sort of reserves or reinforcements to the area. They're using they are using artillery that is incredibly precise in a way that the Ukrainians have not witnessed so far this war. They're using aviation bombs, these guided glide bombs, that the Ukrainians have no answer for. There's nothing they can do about them short of bringing in a Patriot system to somewhere around here. And actually, I'm quite surprised they haven't done that, and I'd like to know why, because they have done it at other times, and I would have thought this is the most vital time to do that. And anyway, they are basically doing all the right things, basically Russians right now as an army that you would expect. They're bringing together all of these different components of their war machine, and they're bringing it down on Avdiivka when they know it is. They sense victory is there for them. Now, the question is, well, what do the Ukrainians do with that? Do they pull out and have a much smaller front line that's maybe more manageable rather than this long front line that is essentially an operational encirclement? Like, what are you doing with your reserves? Are you throwing those reserves into a meat grinder to be attrited away? Is that the wise thing to do? What is the end game here? What is the plan for the Ukrainians? I don't know, but this is basically a very big issue.
Yeah, it's a really big issue. And then Johnny, now, and I'm a part of our purpose here to take you in all these areas is you now can look at that map and go, okay, if I pull back west of Avdiivka, these are actually that line you're talking about. If we pull back and make that line, give that circle up, those are just tiny villages, and there's not much cover. It's fields, it's tree lines. The line can move quickly in those areas, unfortunately, much more so than trying to take a city. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
It's interesting. I have no idea of the provenance of this claim from Guitar Horst. As in, so I don't trust him. He's a great supporter of the channel, but this is an interesting claim. There are 2 Patriots in repair. That, to me, would be the most plausible explanation as to why they haven't brought Patriots to bear here, because they are using aviation. That these Su multi-role aircraft are dropping all sorts of hell on Avdiivka, and this would be the prime time to have a Patriot pop up and then take a bunch of those jets out. You can be sure as heck that they are being monitored, these aircraft, and they know the kind of routine or the flight paths they have. It's just, do they have the capability there to take them down? So maybe they are being repaired. Maybe that is.
Well, I actually, it could be. Okay, but I do know that 2 HIMARS are gone. Okay, so I don't know if it's confused, and maybe it's the Patriots as well. But I do know absolutely there's 2 HIMARS systems that are not even in the country.
That's more like those HIMARS, which the Russians have claimed to have destroyed previously on a number of occasions, but they haven't really turned up with the goods there in terms of evidence.
Yeah, it's HIMARS, and so I've been right beside HIMARS going off. I showed Johnny today where the HIMARS went off before. I showed him the exact spot, and to take 2 of those out, but not even like loan or replace or repair them. I mean, we have a problem here. First of all, we're out basically of supply. And then what we do have, we're pulling off the field, but not replacing it.
The claim around Avdiivka is that there's 1 HIMARS with limited amount of ammunition. So there's 1 HIMARS able to support here. And that, as far as artillery is concerned, there's just basically no ammunition kicking about. It is as bad as you might think. And I was saying it's just relatively recently that Ukraine are in the best position they've been in since this war began in terms of where Russia are. Russia have been kind of on their knees, but actually since what's changed that was ostensibly correct when I made that, but things change and then you reevaluate. And now with 4 months of no ammunition, that is an incredibly long amount of time. If I think what's happened in the week I've been here, right, all the things on.
Hopefully we're getting back. Do we have you back, Johnny?
No, sorry, yeah, it's come back.
There we go.
So I think, it just in 1 week, we've had all of this stuff happening. 4 months of no equipment being sent from. I know it's like, oh, let's blame America, but like I explained in a previous video, in fact, this is really worth saying again. I was talking to Greg and Shenya about this today, right? Oh no, it wasn't. It was having a coffee with Shenya. I was saying, look, Shenya, like the US, imagine all the military spending in the world that's taking place right now. So in 2022, all the military spending in the entire world, what percentage do you think US made up of that? And you might think, well, US is just one country among 180 or however many countries are and spending it. They make up 40% of the world's military spending. One country, 40%. In 2022, the US spent more than the next 10 countries combined. And that's going to include China. It's going to include Russia. It's going to include India. It's going to include all these nations that are spending absolute bucket loads, and the UK on defense. The US spends more than those 10 combined, right? And so the reason why we keep talking about the US, whether they like it or not, whether Americans like it or not, they are in clearly the best position to help Ukraine. There is no other nation that spends near that amount of money on defense. There's no other nation that has spent the last 70 years preparing to do war with the Soviet Union, with Russia. There's no other nation that has the stockpiles of equipment that they have. And so that's why the US is in every single conversation we have about why Ukraine are in the issues they're in, because the US, unfortunately, has had 4 months of being unable to provide aid outside of some presidential drawdown. But that amounts in 4 months to less than $500 million when, we're hoping that it would be $65 billion worth of equipment. So that's why I keep going on about it.
Well, additionally, listen, everybody else will do this. Will understand that they're Americans. I'm just telling you, this 2024 America is not the same America from that 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s. Our country is in a mess, a real mess, and it's hard to even think logically for my nation right now. Like it's chaos in my country, and you're correct. All of these things, we fighting the Cold War, we're building up all this time for this moment in time when we predict that the Russian Empire, the old Soviet Empire, will try to come back again and begin to swallow and take all these nations back. It's going to happen again. All these prognosticators said, all these people predicting the future. Well, that's why we have all the equipment. That's why we have all of this stuff. And we're there now. And it may be fighting a proxy war through Ukraine right now. But the reality is everything we've been preparing for decades and decades and decades is unfolding right in front of our eyes. But unfortunately, those in leadership are too ignorant to understand it. And those that do have a voice are too busy trying to sit across and put hugs and give a kiss to Vova. That's Vladimir Putin. With Tucker, and Trump's in his own planet, and Biden, he's Joe Biden. Our country's in chaos right now. It's just, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is.
A UA supporter says, I watched a video tonight on Midas Touch Network on YouTube. I've watched that video. And by the way, it's a really good video on the opinions of a lot of people. I know Midas Touch is very pro-Democrat and et cetera, but that particular video that talks about the debate in the Senate and then talks about, here's what decent Republicans like Mitt Romney, and you can add Lisa Murkowski and other people to that, are doing, which is the right thing to do. But there are a number like J.D. Vance, like Senator Mike Lee, even Lindsey Graham was like, I really want to support Ukraine, but we can't do it until the border. Well, the border's been split from this. There's nothing to do with the border anymore. This is just voting on Ukraine and Israel and Indo-Pacific. But this is that people keep talking about the border really annoys me. And people are doing this in the comments as well, trying to defend and trying to blame Biden. This is not to do with the border, right? Let's forget that. This is passing aid to Ukraine and those other nations on the merits of their needs. And as Greg says, this is what the US has been building up towards. And yet at the time of need, and also the time of the US is never going to get a better chance to defeat Russia without spilling a single bit of American blood. Like this, it's just, it beggars belief that you have Republicans, particularly thinking of Reagan and that era of the Cold War, where you have certain lawmakers that are saying, no, this is a bad idea, terrible, and then spouting Putin rhetoric. You're like, what is happening? Anyway, sorry, it's the same old rant from
pop up. Rick's comment there is just up a little bit at 10:56.
Yeah,
mine was
okay.
Good comment here. This is from Rick.
Rick, the Ukrainian.
Sorry,
there's, my goodness, 10:56. There's a lot of comments. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, mine was, it seems we're entering much darker times. Showing weakness now means more war soon. Then we all got to prepare to fight. And that's coming, but really he's right, especially here in Ukraine.
Oh, I've lost.
For you or depressing?
Oh, yeah.
We're not trying to be depressing. We're just telling you the truth, and that means we have to fight all the harder. We have to work all the harder. We have to share. We have to comment. You have to contact your politicians. We have to give aid. We just have to fight even harder.
And the frustrating thing is, like, as Kevin Force said, not about me being right, but we have exactly the right tools to deal with Russia. I mean, the frustration is it's all there. Like, we know what to do. We know what tools to use. We know who's got those tools. We've got the money to do this. Like, in thinking of like big picture here, there is, and you could say, well, Europe might not be able to make this stuff quickly enough, but could we not? But, and I don't know the answer to this. I don't know why this hasn't happened. Maybe it is in the middle of happening. I don't know, but it would be good if Europe could say, right, we can't build this, but we can buy it off the US, which is at the moment, at an impasse. So maybe we can get immediate stuff by buying it off the US. I don't know what that would be. I guess second best option, but we've got the tools, we know what to do. It's so frustrating that we're just not doing it.
Well, let's do this. I want to show people in here, because it's getting late and we have to roll again. I want to show people 2 videos, and I would like to show this one. You were making reference earlier to Fred Hintz sent another $100 through Greg's site. Thank you, Fred. I see that there. And additionally, let me do this real quick. Let me do this right quick as well.
I was going to get on to some more thanks.
Thank you, Kevin Force. Thank you, Dr. Battery, Russian Bot Battery. Thank you. Australia, Kevin Force. Thank you, Mr. Lion Dust. Thank you. Appreciate all of that, guys. Everything goes to help and take care of our guys here on the front. And I saw the other chat, just standard chat. Thank you, guys. And listen, I need to say this, if you don't mind. I really do my best to email everybody back, but we've had a crazy schedule. I even like to, respond even with thank you to all the YouTube comments. I will get them. It's just, we barely have had time to breathe. Is that fair, Johnny?
It has been, it's been pretty full on, but I mean, I just feel sorry for Genya, who's doing the driving. There's a lot of driving. There's a lot of time spent in cars. We've done how many kilometers?
By the time we're done, it'll be 4,000. So that's a lot. That's a lot. But with that said, you were talking earlier about, just Zhenya, and he jumped out and fixed the door and all that. But I want to just show this clip, give people a little insight of us driving this evening. And basically, I want you to experience the ingenuity of Zhenya, the ingenuity of Ukrainians. And if we could just supply them, they'll take care of it. They're amazing, brilliant, ingenious people. So roll that one down.
And just something to say about most of Greg's clips when he uses this particular camera device. He's got it mirror flipped, so it's not that Zhenya is driving a British car and is on the other side. It's that this is flipped, and I actually should be over the other side of the car. So just
but I'm no. Wait. I flipped that just for you so you'd feel comfortable watching these videos. Once you leave, I'll go back to the real way it's supposed to be.
This is me getting to imagine I'm on the right side.
I'm making you feel good.
Yeah, I see what you've done.
Go ahead. We're rolling tonight and heading to where we're going to be staying. And actually, Johnny and I are going to do a live tonight here in a little while. Just chat about Ukraine, read your comments, and answer your questions. But something interesting just happened. We had a malfunction with our vehicle, and so I had to do nothing but sit here because I knew Zhenya's the man. So Pierre's window went down but would not come back up. Pulled over on the side of the road. Zhenya went into auto repair mode, and in 15 minutes it was repaired. And Pierre back there going, okay, this is amazing. Look at this man. And then JP saying, wow, this guy can do anything. And I made a comment on that I think is very important. This comes now back to the war. Ukrainian people are the most ingenious people I know. And that's not just because Zhenya just fixed a window, but it's just reality. Working here 26 years, I've seen them take the most crazy situations and fix them. And without the proper tools, without the proper situation on the side of a dark road, he fixed it. And we're back in cooking. So I made this comparison that if we could just get them some stuff, as Johnny says, they can deal with it, and we need to help them and supply them. Agreed, Johnny?
I agree wholeheartedly. I was thinking, he's never going to repair that with a screwdriver, and after 5 minutes with the whole door pretty much taken off, he's fixed a window, which is, I would have had to look on YouTube for that. But no, good man. He's a man of many skills, and I guess if you extrapolate that across the Ukrainian society, we hear this often, that they are innovative and they are putting their minds to winning this war in ways that I think they are greater than the sum of their parts, or whatever that saying is.
Very creative.
Yes, and they can achieve more than the size of their country, population-wise, would predict. And so, that's just another small example of what we're talking about.
We need to get them stuff, and we're watching the chaos unfold in the United States of America. It's just ridiculous. And yes, that's my country, so I can talk about my own country. Then, to give you guys one side note of what it's like to travel with Johnny Pearce. Zhenya finishes working, his hands are dirty, and he gets back in the truck and we're moving. He goes, does anybody have a wet wipe? I need to wipe my hands. And JP says, yes, I've got one in the net of the back. And then, Pierre, it's over there. Get it out of the net of the back. So they're wiping their hands and all of this. And then JP says, let me see if I can remember this properly. He says, I have a plastic bin.
No, I have a bin bag.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a bin bag.
I've got a bin bag. And I said, what on earth is a bin bag? And then he goes, a bin for the rubbish. I said, you mean a trash bag? And he says, yes, for you uncivilized heathens, it's a trash bag.
So we have a border in this car, and the border is the front seats, and then back here we have another civilization, a more advanced civilization,
Yes.
where we have a greater grasp of language and culture, and we just sit and speak in our own tongue here, and one day we'll educate the front of the car.
Yeah, we'll stick up here with our uncivilized. You know, we don't know what we're doing, and we're not at the level of JP and Pierre. No, если мы хотим, мы можем говорить еще языки, а не понимаем ничего. Если ты хочешь говорить о языке, можно.
We'll just speak French in a minute. It'll be fine.
I said, okay, well, they may be cultured and linguistic, but we can drop into another language and they won't understand anything. So it's a great team here, guys, but a little bit of insight tonight. Thank you. Yeah, there you go, buddy. It's so awesome.
Always a pleasure. Never a chore. Brilliant stuff.
It's so awesome. Okay, but hold on. If we're ending, no. Johnny, you're not getting away with it. You're not getting away with it.
Here,
smoky Ukraine and some trucks. But I want to get to the major thing at hand tonight with the Johnny Pearce moment. Jane and I up here, Johnny's in the back with Pierre, and Johnny's back there singing, oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Okay, because in a few kilometers, we're going to be getting, hopefully, onto a road that is less bumpy. So Johnny's back there singing, and Jane and I are just sitting here, and we go, Johnny, do you know what song you're singing? Johnny goes, is that a religious song?
I'm getting in touch with my gospel roots.
He's getting in touch with his gospel roots. Now I will give him the end of it. He goes, oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Yeah, there you go, Johnny. When Jesus washed.
Oh, right. Oh, I get it.
He washed my sins away.
I didn't realise that. I only did the happy days bit.
Johnny is singing, oh, happy day. Welcome to the madness of Ukraine.
Okay.
There you go, Johnny. Love you, buddy.
Nice one. Yes. All his desires and intentions to convert me have not come to fruition. Although he would probably say yet, but we'll see. We'll see. No, it's an interesting marriage of differences here. So it's been. I tell you what, it has been actually. Wonderful's the wrong word. I said this to your parents when you called your parents, and they were like, "Oh, Johnny, let's have a chat to him." I was like, "Oh, we've had a wonderful day," and wonderful's the wrong word because they're like, "You do realize you're in a war zone?" I was like, "Yeah." What I mean is rewarding, as in, and even that can be taken too positively. But in downtimes we do enjoy each other's company, and there's a fraternity there, which is wonderful. That is truly wonderful. But yeah, it is rewarding in even the times that are emotionally fraught or difficult or challenging in terms of who we're talking to and what we're talking about, or what we're finding out about. And it's just, I guess, one of those experiences that will be difficult to come by if I didn't know, someone like you. So thanks for that.
Yeah, man. Listen, we're going to get some rest here, but I would fight for you, buddy. We're family now. We're not friends. We're family. Zhenya would, if we had incoming coming on our vehicle, we'd be throwing you in the ditch and jumping on top of you. We consider you our brother, and that this will be forever. Thank you, buddy.
I would love to say the same back to you, but the chance of me jumping on top of anything is...
No, I said I'd sling you in there.
Oh, right. That's all right then. Yeah, that's nice. Just put me in a backpack and I'll be like, yeah, I'll hit you with my fists, but I ain't running anywhere.
No, you're not, but we'll drag you.
Can I just go through a bunch of thanks?
Please do.
People have been incredibly generous.
Do. Yeah.
Mr. Lion Dust, who's also been very kind to yourself. Thank you very much, Mr. Lion Dust. Mark, well done. As always, guys, stay safe. Thank you so much, Mark. That's really, really very generous of you. too kind. Dr. Russian Battery gifted 5 memberships, super kind. Brian Ivy, yet again, a legend in his support. And we have our political differences, but he seems to be very much similar, more aligned to where Greg is, to be honest. 2ZFN, right? My son, like, what is he doing? Why are you doing this, Oscar? Anyway, thank you, 2ZFN. How's Ukraine? Going to have to get a membership? His pocket money is being ill spent here. But thank you, Oscar. Dr. Russian Bot Battery, this is for your channel with a super sticker. Kevin Forst for your channel with a super sticker. And Mr. Lion Dust for your channel with a super sticker. So that's really kind. And then Javier Alvarez. So when can we expect NAFO patches from ATP Geo and Greg Experience? Have you thought about designing patches? I've got 2 patches from.
Actually, we have. Jenny and I have lightly talked about doing something like that, and definitely that's coming. And not to sell or anything, just to give and to be. We want to be generous back to all of you guys around the world that have been generous helping Ukraine, and we won't forget it. I promise you. And then I had I just want to Newt Inge. Man, I'm gonna mess this name up. Knut
Inge Skilfeld.
There we go. Just like the bin for the rubbish.
Yes.
Not Newt. You're not bin for rubbish. I'm working on my English. I'm working on my Queen's English. So.
We'll get there. My son again. So close to 500 subs by Dad. I think he's talking about his own YouTube channel. He's got like again 2ZFN. So there you go. Julian Rossiter gifted 5 ATP memberships. Thank you, Julian. A great supporter of the channel, and AJ Simon as well. A big hello to JP, Greg, Zhenya, and Pierre. Stay safe, guys.
Remy Stevens, catch that last one there. Thank you very, very much.
Sorry. My son again, like, honestly, when I get back, there's going to be some serious words with this boy. But he says, your community is the best. I'm glad he's got good taste. I'm actually going to go now. Good.
Oscar.
I'm sure you should be in bed or something.
Oscar, give him 5 more. Give him 5 more, Oscar.
The amount of support from everyone is crazy. Shout out to Lawrence. Stay safe. ATP team. Oh, that's really kind of him. He's look at him. He's interacting like he knows his way around the internet. That boy. Any Republican, says Javier Alvarez, that does not support military aid to Ukraine is willingly and openly working for Putin. I mean, that's any human being, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Stupidity in essence. I'm tired of the US so-called MAGA democracy. You're doing great, guys. Big love.
Thank you.
Thanks for Danish love. Again, one of my many bands. And then this is Knut Inge Skilfeld. That's my best Norwegian. Thanks for your Norwegian love. And just 2 more, mate, if that's okay. One for me, one for you. Keep going, says Daniel Smith. So Daniel Smith is from the West Country, does aid, actually runs out aid to Ukraine through Bristol with Love. I've interviewed him.
Awesome.
He drives stuff out to Ukraine. Fantastic. We have to outlast the Russian government's willingness to expand their unwanted population. A big ask, but together we must be more determined than them. Great point there. And thanks for what you are doing, for what work you're doing. So thanks, Daniel. Really appreciate your long-time support, and your comment there is a really interesting one. Our determination needs to outlast theirs. And so that's why the work of Greg and myself has its place in driving that determination in our audiences and carrying you guys along, hopefully with us, or you guys driving us as well. Equally, it's a symbiotic relationship. And finally, Remy Stevens with some Canadian love there. Everyone loves some Maple Love. So Maple Love, that's my new band. Anyway, shut up, Piers. Right, Greg, what's your final words for this stream?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for supporting. And I would also say, you know, Johnny's platform here, we're working through his platform, and then it goes to mine. I'm able to read all of this chat here. And, you know, I love it when everyone has different opinions and interacts with civility. So thank you for that. But the bottom line is, no matter where you stand politically, no matter where you stand in any phase of life, it is not right to wipe out a nation. It is not right to indiscriminately kill women, children, grandmas, grandpas, destroy, and call it righteous, and then have many nations around the world, if not support it, turn a deaf ear to it. That's unacceptable. And we, regardless of how you view it, left, right, middle, happy day, sad day, doesn't matter. We stand for what's right. And together we do make a great difference. So thank you all.
I really can't add anything to that. I completely agree. And it's just everything I thought about this war has been confirmed and more by what I've been picking up here. And it's just also shown me that it's more important than ever to continue our support. And with the lack of support from certain elements around the world, we can try and pick up the slack. Doesn't mean that we'll succeed. But my goodness, it's better to try and fail than not to try at all. And that's not to say that Ukraine will fail at all. That's not what I'm saying. But it is morally obligatory for us, I think, to do everything we can. And so let's continue doing that. I thought this was quite funny. So if you remember, Zhenya's going through the book, and I'm a liberal atheist philosopher, and Greg and Zhenya are ministers, right, and pastors and whatnot. And so this is this unholy holy union that we have in this battle bus. And I can see this now. Zhenya's gone and said, because I can't read Russian, he's like, yeah, it's a book on philosophy that Nikolaevich has given you, and it's a bleeding Bible. It's like, yeah, it's a book on philosophy. Go and read this, mate.
Now I will say this. Listen, we got to go to sleep. I will say this. Johnny has an impressive knowledge on Scripture, and whether he classified Scripture or not, but Bible and even other religions, whether it be Islam. I mean, we've had the most amazing philosophical conversations. That's what happens when you drive these kilometers. And I have the highest respect for Jonathan M.S. Pearce, and I'm honored to call him my friend.
Likewise, man.
Yes, sir, buddy. You want the first one or the second one?
This is where like 10 years ago, here are all my excuses again, mate. 10 years ago, I would have been able to say this, my brains were, but actually, I used to be a linguist, right? That's when my first degree was in languages. Like I know my way around language, but now MS just plays with my cognitive abilities. And the other day, screwing that up, I was like, how can I not remember that? And I have to think every time to make sure I get it right. But I'll go for the second.
Oh, he's going for the second one. Don't screw it up, Johnny. Here we go.
Come on, everyone. Say it with me.
Slava Ukraini.
Heroin Slava.
Pravda. Good job.
Good job, guys. Take care, y'all. Speak soon.
Good night.